What's up, guys? We're back with Ben Heuring from Pro Painters in another breakthrough session. And it's a recap not only of what the first breakthrough session we had was about, and kind of niching down was our topic. In this episode, we talk about kind of the progress that he's made since then, which was about a 2 to 3 week gap, and how the business owner that he works for, Jason, has been adjusting to some of the changes, some of the things that we actually hammered out in the breakthrough session. So I'm excited for you to listen to that. So here it is. Tune in. The big question you need to ask yourself every day is, do I own a job or do I own a business? And unfortunately, the majority of contractors out there own a job. That's right, they're a slave to their own business. But the other side of the fence is so much greener, it's so much better, and that's when you're finally fully in control of your destiny, your freedom, your time. And that's what Contractor Secrets is about. It's about taking back our time, building a business with systems, standards, values, procedures, putting yourself in the driver's seat. And that's what it's about. So I'm excited. I'm happy to have you here. Let's dive into the Contractor Secrets podcast. All right, welcome everybody to the Business Breakthrough. I'm here with Ben. Round two recap of what we discussed on the previous episode. A lot of listeners to that one, man. It was a really good episode, and we hammered out a lot of things. So do you want to just dive into some changes? I know we briefly just talked about COVID. COVID kind of got imposed on his business in terms of a lockdown in Minnesota. So really just kind of want to just talk about everything but that, because that's such a downer topic and we're just going to jump over it. Aside from that, like so we talked about a couple of things. We talked about marketing, getting some marketing into the business to help narrow down the niche. I think that was the big topic we talked about, was niching down. So what was Jason's, and for those of you who didn't listen to the first one, Jason is the owner of the company Ben works for. As Ben's the sales manager. Jason's the owner, and I just kind of want to get, and Jason was not present during our talk, so Ben was relaying a lot of the information that we discussed. So what was Jason's response to some of those things?
So, his initial response, he understood like where we were coming from. Ironically, we're working on a job where we're fixing someone else's mistakes, and we're stripping down windows, restaining, refinishing, and it has really opened his eyes up to how far back this has put us, just because the whole process taken a lot longer than he had anticipated. And we're trying new sources for leads, and Thumbtack is one of them.
All right.
So based on what you had mentioned about, what type of work you're taking on full houses, certain room size, or, certain number of rooms, we adjusted our target to 5+ rooms, or it might be 7+ rooms, just to see how that goes. And we have a set budget right now just to kind of evaluate the return on investment.
Cool.
But I've gotten 3 leads from it, working on trying to close these deals, and he sees it from the perspective that you addressed it. We know how to paint walls. We know how long it's going to take based off of the skill level of our painters. And so that's just going to help with everything from scheduling, from the revenue standpoint, staying on track, and, just getting happy customers. So it's pretty simple. It's a simple concept. It's a little bit harder for him to grasp because he's been kind of a do-it-all handyman for his entire career. But the idea is that he's not supposed to be on every single job, right? He's supposed to be running the business. So
and as hard as it is, when I work with contractors that are Jason, normally I'm working with Jason, to actually work with you to help try to change Jason. I'd love to have him on. Maybe if we can get that happening, maybe next time. I'd love to talk with him. But one thing that I'm getting at, bro, is it's hard for him to listen to you, because you said that he's a results guy, so he wants to see it working before and I could just tell based off of what you just told me. So he took on this redo where he's having to do all these different things. This is the exact opposite advice I gave you, and hopefully you brought it up to him before he took this job, and he took the job, right? That's what happened.
No, this job was already lined up.
Oh, it was already lined up. Okay, good. So this kind of solidified what you had brought up. Like, hey, man, we can't be taking these crazy jobs. I had a lady that I gave an estimate to probably about 4 months ago. I quoted it for like 5 grand. I mean, we're a little bit more expensive, but it is what it is. She emailed me 3 weeks ago saying, I made a mistake. I hired this guy. He didn't do a good job. Now it needs to be sanded, primed. She sent me. I said, all right, well, just send me pictures of what's there. Just it's for me to look. She was ready to hire us for 5 grand, probably a little more, maybe 6 for the error. I said, I can't touch it because it's stripping, removing, like this stuff that I don't want to have my guys do. Like, I don't even care about the money. Like, I could care less about the 6 grand. We'll find 6 grand doing what we're best at because it's going to stress out my guys. Dude, they don't want to do that stuff. Like, no, I wouldn't want to. Like, I wouldn't want to freaking have to go there and start stripping paint and then sanding down. And, like, that's not, I would rather them be so happy because all they got to do is roll and cut walls. Dude. If they're happy, I'm happy. And it takes the stress off of them, which takes the stress off of me. Because when the employees are stressed, the business owner becomes stressed. So I play a game of keep away. I keep away stress. I keep away, like, putting a brush. I don't even own a paintbrush. I don't even have one. If I needed to touch up something in my house, I'd have to go buy a paintbrush. So it's like, that's how far away I am from being physically hands-on in anything.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, 2 more points that I wanted to address. I met with one of our lead painters yesterday. He's on a job by himself, and I had this conversation with him too. He was a little beat down by the recent news and everything, but we talked about that a little bit. But then I went into these kind of jobs that he's been thrown into, and how that has affected him from a professional and personal standpoint. He's like, it is frustrating because I'm not as experienced with some of these things that I'm being asked to do. And I kind of I said it from an outside perspective. Like, if you were to focus on painting walls, keeping it simple, like what you're good at, how would that help you in your job? Right. And he agreed with it. He was saying, if I was constantly doing things that I'm good at, and I didn't have to try to figure out a way to do this and have Jason be there and then get upset because I'm not doing it the way he wants,
the customer don't, it ain't just Jason, it's the customer looking like
100%. Yeah. And I think the other thing I learned from that too, is, we always want to have happy customers, but what creates happy customers is happy employees. So you want to make sure that your employees are confident, they're happy, and they're enjoying what they're doing. And I think that advice you gave me really opened my eyes up to that.
Good.
So
good. And when it comes to Jason and mine, anyone listening and I've never met Jason, so I don't know his personality. I don't know really what he's like. I'm sure he's a great guy, and I don't, but I'm going to take him and use him as an example. So this isn't directed toward him. This is just me using it as an example. Yeah. You have this business owner that all he knows is when he started his business, he had to figure it out. Okay. He had to, if there was something needing done, number one, knowing that when he started his business, he probably didn't have a lead generation company sending in leads. So whatever came his way, by default for survival, he had to take the job. Like, he had to. And if it required, stripping wood and doing all these crazy things that maybe he wasn't 100% good at, it was in his best interest to figure it out. And he probably did, and he probably got good at it, okay?
Yep.
Because he was the owner of the business.
Yeah.
Now, when you have employees, they don't have that same level of drive, and they don't need that same level of drive because they're employees. They are heat-seeking missiles. You point it in a direction, and you shoot it. Okay, but that's how you should look at it. And the problem with Jason, and again, using him as an example, I don't know Jason. I'm just using this as, I don't want to, if he listens to this, I don't want to be like, who's that guy talking crap about me? I don't want that to be the case. I'm just using him as this idea of a business owner who's a contractor as well, hands-on contractor, and has the same level of expectation out of his employees as he held to himself. Okay. So making that transition is now, okay, yes. Is there $6,000 on the table? Absolutely. Okay. If I wanted that 6 grand, but what's the cost? The cost is what I'm missing out on with finding jobs that I'm best at to fill those slots versus, or not versus, in addition to the stress and the strain that it puts on my team. And for me, yes, would it be maybe 5 grand to find two $2,500 jobs instead of 6 grand for the one job? So I'm giving up maybe $1,000, but the process is smooth. I have no issues, and we're able to get better at what we're best at.
Absolutely.
But I told you last time we spoke that you're the gatekeeper. Like you're the guy who's filtering out these jobs, and it's really going to come down to you having enough confidence in being able to back away.
Right.
Because you were probably the one that went and saw that error that happened, that you guys are currently working on right now. Am I right?
Actually, no. I bid probably 95% of the jobs, and I never even saw this one. That was Jason.
Okay. That was Jason. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. On something like that, I mean,
you wouldn't even know how to bid it, probably.
Exactly. I'd have to consult with Jason on something like that. And then, but now, I asked him for his approval for me to be able to gauge, like what I feel we can and can't do. And that's where there's still a little bit of that hesitation, but he's opening up to it. And a good example is I was on an estimate earlier this week where a customer wanted us to strip these old doors that were oil enameled partially, and then the middle insert was stained, and they're like, I want the door to look stained. So I basically took the information as it is, and I use this as an example with Jason, like, how do we want to approach this, right? Based on what you're doing right now, can we rely on, or do we want to throw our guys on a job like this and have them just kind of figure it out? Do we do like time and materials? So what we ended up doing is basically saying, yeah, this isn't necessarily the job for us. If you can get these doors stripped down, I mean, we can stay in and finish them. But
yeah,
again, it's one of those, it's very hard for, I think, both of us from looking at a revenue standpoint, and especially for him, like, to turn away work. But I think we're starting to
don't look at it as turning away from work, because that is that to me,
right.
Oh man, I'm turning away. But look at it as I'm turning toward my ideal work.
Right.
That isn't, so it's like, in the same way that people are interviewing you for the job as a contractor, you're interviewing them. This isn't like, you're interviewing the job, like you're estimating. And like, we have this idea that like, just because we estimated, we're obligated, and we're not.
Right.
It's an estimation. We're looking to see if we're a good fit. And when you have like, we will go back to this, like the confidence in your marketing to know that there's going to be more people interested than just this one person, gives you the confidence to turn toward those. Like right now, I have 7 estimates to do, okay, that are on my queue of pricing, not going to the job, just pricing. So I have 7. I know for a fact all 7 aren't going to go with me. Looking briefly at the notes and the pictures that I got from my guy, Chris, who's out in the field doing the quotes and looking at the jobs and measuring, taking pictures, I know that 2 of the jobs aren't even like anything that I want to touch. One's a mobile home that has, and I don't sleep on mobile homes, dude. Those homes can sometimes be great jobs. It's not that just because it's a mobile home, I won't take it. But the inside wallboard is that slick, like wood. So it's going to need to be oil primed, and it's going to, and this lady's ready to pay. A lot of people with mobile homes have a lot of money because their houses are cheap. So I know for a fact she'll pay us between 5 and 8 grand to do it. I'm not even going to bid it. I don't even want it because it's not my job. I'd rather have for us, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom stucco repaint inside or outside. That is my ideal job. Anything outside of that is something that I will only take if I'm in an emergency. And I do a lot of stuff throughout the month to make sure I don't land myself in an emergency. Like I don't
Yeah.
just wait until jobs are running thin to start marketing. In the same way, I don't wait to start putting out application, or excuse me, I don't wait to start putting out uh, ads for painters when I need them.
Right.
Like, go look on Indeed. Almost every company that is a good company has a position open. They're doing
Yeah.
that because they never stop hiring. I never stop marketing ever. It'll never stop. I'll always pay for leads. I'll always have something coming because I don't ever want to get to that point where I wasn't prepared. And when you're
Yep.
not prepared, that's when you're scared. Does that make sense?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with Jason, like, all right, so let's start talking about, because there's a lot of people that aren't just like you in terms of COVID. It's a conversation worth having. So we I really wanted to kind of recap. It sounds like you're making progress. It's only been a week and a half. So, you know,
Yeah.
going forward, but now you have this big hurdle of COVID. So you briefly told me before we got started here that you were doing one painter on each job.
Yeah.
Is that the plan?
That's, I mean, that's our tentative plan right now. I mean, the jobs that we have kind of allow for that, but we're not absolutely positive. We haven't put it in play yet. We're
Yeah.
just, we're trying to evaluate, and maybe we might, we're going to have a recap on that today, actually this afternoon, but it might be something where we reach out to each client that we have booked and coming up, what they would prefer, like, or what they're comfortable with. If we have a couple that are full house, like, do we want to work in phases so that you can allocate your home office, to certain spaces that we're working in and we're not working in, type of a thing. So I think kind of right now we're going to reach out to who we have and just kind of base it off of, if I'm doing an estimate, asking those questions, like, what's important to you during these times, and here's what we have in play. Does this make sense for you, or how would you prefer it, type of a thing. So I think we're going to be gathering some data and some feedback and
Good idea
adjusting accordingly.
on a person to person basis. In the same way people buy differently, they're going to want the job done differently. People have different viewpoints of how to go about this. And I think to limit it, I thought initially it would be like, that's the standard, but yeah, it's a great idea, man. Go over it case by case, job by job, and trudge along that way, man. And with it being ice cold up there, probably snowing. Is it snowing yet?
We've had a couple warm days, past couple
good.
days in the 50s. Cool. So,
but it's never that, you're never that confident to where you would book an exterior, right?
No.
Yeah, that would
you don't mess around with that.
You can't be a gambler as a painting contractor up there.
No, especially being on the other side of the counter working for Sherwin-Williams, just knowing that.
Yeah.
When our customers ask, hey, you think it's a good idea to paint outside today? I'm like, what do you want me to say?
So let's talk about you working for Sherwin-Williams.
Sure.
All right, how long? And I would actually wanted to ask you this last time, but we kind of ran over time. So what did you learn about the general consensus of painting contractors? Like, how long did you work there?
10 years.
10 years.
Yep. So from part-time to management
what's the synopsis that you've gotten in the way that a majority of contractors do business?
Wow. So that's a very loaded question. I think one of the main things I took from it is the customers that I really worked well with and got along with and got to understand their business operated in different ways than your said owner operator. Smaller, I don't know, we joked around, call them Chuck in the truck or whatever, yeah. So I think what I gathered is there's a big difference between like a company and a painter, if you will. The way that they operate is completely different, especially in this market. I mean, there's a lot of subcontractor type models that are done in Minnesota. A lot less employee operated companies, but overall, it seemed like when I really got to know people's business and got to understand where their struggles were, it was either in the labor force or it was in lead sourcing. So how they're marketing, not wanting to spend money on marketing because they don't see it as a as
Exactly.
an investment that has its return. They're looking at the initial cost, and it goes all the way through the price of your paint, everything, right? So the general consensus was it always came down to price. And I felt like it was my job, and I took it on for myself to be able to help them see a little bit more beyond that. So when I started evaluating and understanding my role as a sales rep, an outside sales rep, I was in that position for 4 years. I started understanding that it was more beneficial for me to understand these customers' businesses and try to help in different ways other than just trying to sell paint. So
So it was more so helping them understand business principles, sales,
yeah,
marketing, and get
yeah,
that. And part of the reason why I'm doing what I do is because I know that's my general consensus too. Is that you have there's different pools of painting contractors. So you have like the pool of people that are quote unquote truck in a truck. And when we say that, it's not meant to be demoralizing or demeaning, but
absolutely
it's just
not.
the standard of which they operate is essentially I have a truck and I can paint your house
Right.
and that's it. And unfortunately, that's probably I would say a vast majority. And when I
Mm-hmm.
hear that subcontractors and employees, that to me is like the great debate because subcontractors and employees are, the differences in the companies and the way they're ran is either you have a company that is phenomenal with their operations to where subcontractors is done legally, efficiently, and it's phenomenal. Like they have
Yeah.
the owner, and then they have a sales manager, and then they have production managers as employees, office admins as employees, and then they have a list of subcontractors that they trust that can bid on jobs, and they're not tied to the business. Okay, and that is
Yep.
phenomenal. I'm all about that. I think that's great. But then you have these guys that think that just because they don't want to pay taxes, and then they write a check to a couple guys for working, and then they call them subs, and they only work for them. And then it's like, that's not a subcontract relationship. So they're right next to the chucks. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I believe that to me, just because number one, I'm a huge fan of employees because employees help you develop a team atmosphere. You get to know
Yep.
these people, you get to know their families. They're tied to more than just their own self-interest. And that's something that customers will feel as well. Can you imagine if you went, to Chick-fil-A and they subcontracted the people working in they wouldn't be as enthusiastic. They're about to go to McDonald's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so you can't implement the values to subcontractors. You can't implement the standard. You can't create a family atmosphere. You can't create, you can't create that. And for me, it really, I think the big barrier that I've learned in doing this is that the barrier is more so the legality. It's more so the responsibility, which is so easy if you actually look
Yeah.
into it. There's payroll companies that handle payroll. There's accounting firms that handle accounting. You just got to find the people
Yeah.
and figure out a way to pay them and keep them busy. So keeping them busy is the key. But that was just interesting. I was just curious to see if we had the same consensus, and it's the same there as it is all over. And the purpose of what we're doing is trying to change that. It sounds like
Yep.
what you guys have up there is great. You're going to deal with this hurdle, but if you guys work together, I'm confident you can get through it because ultimately, at the end of the day, we've proven that coronavirus does not affect whether or not people paint their house.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it increases it because people are in their house more.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
100%. I would agree 100%.
Awesome, dude. I didn't know we'd be so recession pandemic proof.
Yeah, I know. It's I mean, initially it was obviously difficult trying to
Yeah.
get around all of it, but yeah, I mean, as
So
things went on, I mean, we were busier than ever. So
yeah.
it's
So
good.
going forward, know that look, there's a certain amount of people that from today forward are going to get their house painted, right? Let's lock that
Yep.
in as truth. They're going to get their house painted. It's going to
Yep.
happen. Somebody's going to do it, bro. Okay.
Yep.
It's just a matter of is pro painters going to be there for when they're ready to make that decision.
Right.
And if I were you, okay, if you guys, do you know how many jobs you have in the pipeline right now?
Yeah, we just looked at that. We have about I think it's like 16 or so. It ends
16
up accounting.
jobs.
Yeah, it's
We're just
like
putting you guys
4
in
to 5
perspective.
weeks.
4 to 5 weeks. Okay. So that's a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lineup. And I would say that you know, you through all these things, double down on Home Advisor, double down on Thumbtack, double down on Google, get somebody to help you with Google. I put out a podcast with Ryan Davis. He's really good. I don't know if you listened, if you, I don't know if you even listened to it, but it's the marketing episode. It was just a few days ago. And he's great. He talks about Google, and he's the guy that I would recommend to reach out for something like that. But Google's free money, man. And if you
Yeah.
can master, how many reviews do you guys have on Google, by the way?
18.
18. Okay. How long has he
yeah.
been in business?
Technically since July of last year, 2019.
Okay.
Well, Pro Painters. It's a rebranding of his old company. Yeah.
So I would make it your focus. And I don't know if you can do this to incentivize your team. You need to get 100 reviews.
Yeah.
100 reviews. Let me tell you something, dude. When I hit 100 reviews on Google, I don't know what happened, but like I don't really hardly ever use Home Advisor anymore. I mean, people just see 100 5-star reviews and they're like calling them.
Yeah.
The next competitor within 100 miles has 50, and I know the owner. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's not even close to me in reviews. And if you start to get close, I'll freaking get 50 more within. I will always stay 50.
I think the most I've seen is like in the 30s. So
look, that's easy.
I guess we're running out of time, obviously, but sometimes I don't know what kind of strategy you have, but I feel like sometimes getting a review, whether it's just the process of it or, customers will leave like a comment on a Facebook post or something like that, but getting them to do the review
is more difficult than you think, right?
Right. So
let me ask you something. When was the last time you wrote a review for somebody?
A couple of weeks ago, actually.
What was it for?
It was a restaurant we actually painted the exterior, and we went there to eat for the first time, Jason and I, to have a business lunch, and the food was amazing. So
did you just take it upon yourself to Google them and write the review?
I did, yeah. Well, he also left. I was like, hey, I appreciate your business. We just had some of your food and the food was great. I'm going to leave you a review. And, he was like, thanks for doing that. I'll do the same. So he returned the favor.
It was like a give and take. Now, let me tell you, that's a little bit different. That was like a business owner to business owner thing, which it's like doing it for your friend. What's another time you left a review?
Yeah, I guess I don't leave reviews that often.
You don't leave reviews. Right. Well, you got to remember, customers are people just like me and you. They're just in a different role at that time. So what would make you leave a review? I'll put it this way. I come over to your house and I paint your house. After I'm done, me and you do a walk around, dude. You're happy. You think I did a great job. And me and you were friends at this point. We've talked about our family. I sold you the job. We're just like, man, this coronavirus thing sucks. We're cool. I say, Ben, listen, man, be honest with you. We're trying to grow. And one of the best things you could do for me, dude, is to please leave me a Google review. I'm actually going to I'm going to send you a link through text. And this is something Dripjobs will do automatically, by the way. I'm going to send you a link. That's the software that I'm developing. I'm going to send you a text right now, Ben, and that's going to have a link to our Google page. If you leave a review for us anywhere, man, Google is where I would love a review. Would you mind doing that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's the
accountability.
And I don't do all the walkthrough or the final walkthroughs.
It doesn't have to be done in person, bro. It doesn't have to be done in person. You can do it over the phone. You can say, hey, how was everything? And if you want to be a full circle sales manager, you should be following up with your customers, because those are the people that are going to refer Ben, not pro painters. They're going to refer Ben. They're not going to refer pro painters. So that's really important, because ultimately you should be bringing that full circle. Anyone you sell a job to, dude, you should be bringing it full circle. You should be at least calling to see, hey, did I keep my promises when I went there? And then that's who they're going to write a review about. Ben kept his promises.
Yeah, and I think too often it's, I do follow up, but oftentimes it's email, and that's not as effective. I mean,
it's insensitive, and you probably don't even get many responses. So
exactly.
what I would say is, like, first thing, like after the job, say, hey, Mrs. Jones, how did we do? And then let them tell you did a great job. And then you got to ask, and you got to make it personal and say, would you mind if I sent you a link to our Google page where you could leave us a 5-star review? And then let them say yes. Now they're obligated. Now, if they don't do it, they lied. And people don't do that. People would rather just go through with it because they said they would. There's a 20% of people who won't do it, even if they tell you they're going to do it. That's fine. But if 80% of the people that you do it, do it. Dude, I have over 250 5-star reviews. I do the same thing every time. Hey, would you mind leaving us a 5-star review? I'm going to send you a link, and all you got to do is click it and then just write a little something about your experience. Minimize the effort.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't expect people to take time out of their busy day, which isn't very busy, to actually go on Google, search for pro painters, find out how to look for the review, and then write it. It's just not going to happen. So make it easy on them. So I think that's where we're going to wrap up.
Okay. Thanks for that advice.
Yeah, man. I think that's where we're going to wrap up, man. Look, we might have to connect again in the next couple weeks. I'm happy to. And please keep us updated on what goes on, man. I hope that you got through this time, and I'm sure you will. You guys are pretty smart guys, so I'm sure you'll work it out.
Yeah, I'll try to get Jason on here too.
So yeah, please do, man. You know what? Next time, dude, if you can have him on there, I think, dude, now that everyone, I mean, we've got 2 episodes down, and everyone listening to the podcast probably wants to hear from this guy.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to take a second to thank you for joining me here on the Contractor Secrets podcast. I'm just going to take this opportunity to let you know that my passion is coaching people, helping people. I've changed my Instagram name to @contractorcoach, and I did that because that is my passion. I want to help you. So please reach out to me. If you have an issue going on in your business, send me an email. Find me on Instagram, message me, and let's do a breakthrough session. I want to work through your problems in your business to help you get to that next level. And one thing that I always say is this, the difference between those that get over the humps and the hurdles in business is just a change in perspective. And that's what I plan to offer you. So get with me, message me, allow me to help you take your business to the next level.